social media really does take down the barriers. It allows fans to get closer to the game. It lets them see their favorite athletes both on and off the court.
Hey Will, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Today is going to be, an interesting episode. We have been already covered sports and athletes in the past, but this time, we can go a bit more granular when it comes to, the specifics, especially when it comes to teams and matches and everything that is going on, social media and sports. Is definitely something more predominant these days. So really want to learn, from you on that. But before we get started, we usually ask our guests to present themselves using the map that basically is divided in three different, items. Basically the mission, right? So what do you do, and what do you aim to achieve with your work, achievements, anything that you're you are very proud of in your either life or career, and the last one is the purpose. So why do you do what you do?
So I oversee the social media content for New York Mets. That basically means the day to day, making sure that we have new, fresh content out across all of our channels. I think one of the things I'm most proud of is our team. We have a really great team that pushes the boundaries of social media. We're always trying to improve and get better. One of the things I'm personally proud of is I did run the New York City Marathon last year. So from the couch to the marathon, I ended up losing 50 pounds, and it was just a personal thing that I challenge I took on and was pleased with. And then give me the last two.
The last one is the purpose. So why do you do what you do?
I'm a lifelong sports fan. I grew up a Mets fan. I feel very blessed, and I feel like I have a great opportunity to be able to connect the Mets fans with the team. So here in with the team, we have a great responsibility to our fans and provide them with awesome access and really cool content. So I was a fan once, and now I have the privilege to be able to give the Mets fans the opportunity to see behind the scenes.
Amazing. First of all, congratulations on the marathon. It's definitely something there. So that's a great one. And so yeah, tell me a bit more, right? Like as you said, being a sport fan, right? Going from like someone maybe watching then to be actually the one managing the content, right? So tell me a bit more about your career journey in marketing, specifically when it comes to like this emphasis on sports.
Yeah, so I actually started out at Madison Square Garden. I was an intern there. Spent 16 months as an intern. I couldn't get out of that place. I loved being there. Just tremendous vibe to that building. Great history. I was in the group sales department there. Then I left and went to New York Bears, which is minor league baseball team. Got a chance to learn a little bit. And minor league baseball, you do everything. So it was really a great opportunity for me to, see the inner workings of the organization, especially early on in my career. Ultimately came back to the Garden, worked in the marketing department there. That's where I knew I really wanted to be. I started out in group sales and then was doing marketing for sports properties, which handles all of the sporting events that come into the building that are not team sports. So no Knicks, no Rangers. And then bounced around a little bit, went to the Harlem Globetrotters. So got a chance to travel North America with the Globetrotters and do some marketing for them. And then ultimately came back to New Jersey where I grew up, worked at Giant Stadium and Continental Airlines Arena in marketing the events there. Bounced over to Prudential Center when that building first opened. So got a chance to be a part of the launch of that building. And during my time there, I switched from the building side to the team side, going in and being director of marketing for the New Jersey Devils. And that's really where I got my start in social media. We had a very progressive president, and he was looking to save some money on our marketing spend and really felt like social media was a great way for us to connect with our fans. So jumped in, had a lot of success over at the Devils. We went from one of the least engaged teams in social media to the most engaged team in a year's time. So, and then probably, a year or so after that, the Mets were looking to hire the first person with the word social media in their title for the team. So came over here and just celebrated my 12th year with the team.
And since you were saying from the least engaged right to the most number one most engaged right like on social media, I'm curious, what are some of the either factors or formats, like how do you go from like not being engaged on social media when it comes to sports, right, to what have you identified certain type of formats? Is it like again, how do you bring some like a team, right, that maybe doesn't have that much engagement on social media to be the number one?
It's a good question because there's a lot of things that are very simple that we started to do that changed the tide for us. One, we started to respond and interact with fans. The fact that
Mhm.
fans knew that, somebody was behind the keyboard more or less that, oh, like if I reach out to the Devils, they're going to reach back out to me or they're going to stay connected with me. If I post something, they're going to like it. So just that community management was a major key factor. We also started to be more human. We started to use more humorous copy. We started to have a little more fun with things. And then we also paid attention to the content that we were producing. We would see if, this type of content does better than another piece of content, we should try to double down on that. So yeah, there's some very easy things that we started to implement that really changed the tide for us. And I'll admit that was very early on in the world of social media. So we didn't have all of the fun stuff that we have today with the vertical videos and TikTok and that kind of stuff. But yeah, we started to implement very simple things and started to pay attention a little bit more. And that really helped us out.
And in addition to right the social media landscape evolving, also also the type of relationship and the type of like I'd say commitment, right, from also athletes themselves to social media changed a lot, right? Before athletes were, I'm gonna do like my all like things that is basically play the sports, being there for for my audience and for my team, but that's about it. And then in the years there have been also been this personality, right? Like in front of the camera, not only on the field but also maybe during their personal lives and like inspirational moments and so on. And because of that, now we see like an increase, right, of a partnership, right, between content creators, and maybe influencers that are like fan of the team, right, and so on. So, like, how did it change, in the past years? Like, have you identified anything specific that you are, looking really closely when it comes to again athletes as influencers that are able to communicate not only about the sports but also about like anything else going on in their lives?
Yeah, no, we've definitely seen it more and more with our team as well as, athletes everywhere, and especially in college sports as well. Social media really does take down the barriers. It allows fans to get closer to the game. It lets them see their favorite athletes both on and off the court or field in our case. But yeah, I mean, I think, that has drastically changed. I think the flexibility and the availability of the platforms now make it very easy for athletes to pull out their phone and create content and share that content. And I think, TikTok probably changed the world a little bit for all of us
Hmm.
from a content creation standpoint of that we're okay with it not being extremely polished, beautiful,
Yeah.
video. We just want the access. We want to be able to see our favorite players when they're on the road, when they're, doing things that we don't normally get a chance to see them do. So, yeah, I think the platform, the accessibility has changed significantly as well. So, and I think the fans are the beneficiary of it. I think a lot of athletes realize like, oh, this is a great way for me to connect with the fans and, tell my full story. I'm not just an athlete. I have other interests. I have a family. I have other things going on that makes me more relatable to you. And, maybe you get the benefit of the doubt if I go 0 for 4 one night because, I like you as a person.
And do you feel that now athletes are totally getting like how to become, let's say, again, content creators themselves, this sport person, or are you still noticing maybe some, I don't want to say mistakes, right? But things that you might not know if you're not a content creator, right? Because again, your role, right, is still like primary as an athlete, right? And so I know that sometimes maybe they might not be communicating the right way, or maybe the type of like formatting, right, of their videos might be, be better. Like, have you noticed anything that you would recommend, like, for athletes out there that want to become maybe either again better communicators, or whenever it comes to partnership with brands, like what would you do differently?
Yeah, no, I think there is we run into that all the time where, our athletes are definitely trying to use their social channels to brand themselves more. But yeah, I mean, I think, my recommendation to athletes that are, trying to utilize social better is to, again, I think first and foremost, be genuine. Like, use the opportunity to show who you are. You don't need to have an entire team put things together for you, but, I think another aspect is making sure you're comfortable with the content you're producing. So, we make suggestions to our players all the time. Hey, you should do this. Hey, you should do that. And we'll bring them, different concepts. But, if it's something that they don't think is going to, that they feel strongly about or feel comfortable with, it makes it, challenging. I think for the most part, athletes have figured out, hey, I can just pull out my phone and I can, shoot in that vertical format. And, again, a lot of opportunity with editing on your phone as well. You don't need an Adobe product to pull it off. CapCut, a lot of our guys are pretty savvy with that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, our crew at least is pretty good with it. But I think people who are into it and people or athletes that are trying to brand themselves have a pretty good grasp on it. And again, I think the more you try different things and you learn from those, you'll see success.
And specifically to your job, right? And if you look at the social media strategy of the New York Mets, right, for a second, I'm very curious you know, to hear from you on that in terms of like, from scheduling the content to like what type of formats is working well. You kind of like already shared a bit, about that, but I'm also curious since, these days, there is so much going on the internet, right? You want sometimes to either shock people, right, with some content, or maybe you want to newsjacking things, right? Maybe something happened, one of the athletes, right? And then you have to create a video super quickly. What is the balance between like scheduling content in advance to, again, trying to understand what is happening, in every single minute to maybe putting something out there, and also like how easy it is to manage something like that, again, with so much content going on the internet.
Yeah, it's not easy for sure. Obviously, it's a tough balancing act. We have a content
Mm,
calendar that spans months into the future, and we are planning on a number of things. We kind of have. I would say there's probably three funnels, or we start with the largest part of the funnel and work our way down. So stuff that we know happens every year, player birthdays, holidays, stuff like that, that we know we're going to produce content for. That stuff gets put in the calendar and we're aware of that stuff. But then we're probably looking at the month, what we have for that month, and then even more granular, what's going on this week, and then even more granular, what are we doing hour to hour. So we try not to plan too much, or we try not to schedule too much content in the future. We're absolutely planning and making sure that we have a good mix of content across all of our channels throughout, but we aren't scheduling, significantly into the future. In the off season now, without games, we are able to plan a little bit better or schedule a little bit more, but only a day or two in advance. Obviously, the last thing we would want is like to post something that we have scheduled, a funny video or something we produced in the off season, and something happened,
mm.
that would make it feel insensitive. So yeah, there's a constant mixed, and I think the other part of it is, the trends change, very
Yeah.
quickly. So, what we're talking about today by next week may not be, we might be onto something else. So, a lot of times we are working very quickly, and shout out to our content creators who are, there's a concept that comes up, they get, we go and we film it and they are able to turn it around and get it out. One of the major factors for us is timing. We know for sure there's a window for a lot of these trends and a lot of the content that we're producing. So, we have to react quickly. So I'd say we have a pretty good mix of, planned and scheduled content, but a lot of it is, serendipitous and stuff that we were working on very quickly and we're able to turn around fairly quickly.
Hello! Is your brand ready to amplify its reach? Well, the Influencer Marketing Factory is here to do just that. We are a global influencer marketing agency helping brands ignite their growth, from influencer identification to campaign strategy, handling legalities and agreements to managing shipping and logistics. We have it all covered. We work with hundreds of brands across different verticals, from Fortune 500 companies to DTC brands. And we don't just stop there. With detailed ROI analysis, we help brands like yours measure success, transforming impressions into actionable conversions. You can find us at the influencermarketingfactory.com or just search the Influencer Marketing Factory on Google.
Yeah, that was very curious about it, because one of the things that we noticed in working with some, companies and brands out there, it is that there is a trend going on, but then you have like so many layers, right, of approvals, and then you need legal, and then you need approval of the CEO and this and that, and then boom, the trend now is 3 weeks old. If you're actually gonna post it in the moment, you're gonna be counter effective, right? Because you actually be like, why are they posting this now? There was like going live and everything. So have you identified either a framework or something to say there is this trend, thumbs up to proceed, or and then you get a content, or do you get a content first and then you check it out? Like, I'm curious to see what is the framework there, because again, as you said, you have to go fast. You don't want to miss on something, but at the same time, you don't want to jump on a trend just because, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, we have really good leadership here. Our VP
Hmm.
of brand is very in the know on a lot of this stuff and recognizes that we have to work quickly. So, we have, Slack's channels, we have text groups, and if somebody sees something and says, "Oh, hey, this, can we do this?" There was something not too long ago, and again, by the time this comes out, the trend will be long gone. But Group 7 on TikTok, someone saw it, put it in the group, and then we worked pretty quickly to get that up and out. And again, it was one of those things where it was like, she just greenlit it and said, "Let's go, let's make it happen," and we were able to do it. So for the most part, we do have the flexibility of if something's going on now, let's get it done by the end of the day or within the hour or whatever we're able to do and then get it up and out. Obviously, there are certain scenarios where there's a little more conversation, a little more collaboration of like, does this make sense for us? Can we do this well? Because that's the other part of it. You don't want to just do it to be part of the trend
Exactly.
and it alienate our fan base or just not fit our brand overall.
Absolutely. No, that's why, I was asking exactly, right? Sometimes I notice that certain brands maybe jump on a trend just because, and then it's not part of their DNA. The audience is very confused, right? And you might lose part of the audience, right? Because you're jumping on something that is not really, part of you as a brand. And, it's still on the partnership side, I saw that you posted on your LinkedIn, right? But also partnership that you did with Netflix, right? To promote the release of, Happy Gilmore 2. In that case, right, you're combining basically social media with Netflix, right? There is streaming service with sports that people go either in person or see on traditional TV. So you mix in a lot of different things here, right? So first of all, how did that come as an idea, and then what was the execution look like?
Yeah, no, that was a fun one for us to work on. But yeah, so Netflix was promoting Happy Gilmore 2. They had come to us with, hey, we're looking for an idea. And one of our players, Jeff McNeil, is a big golfer, big fan of the movie as well. So we pitched them the concept that ultimately we posted, which was Jeff and the actor Chris McDonald, who played Shooter McGavin. They would, battle in a miniature golf course. We couldn't actually get to a golf course, but we were able to film that here. So we were looking for something that would again catch
Yeah.
the eyeballs of Mets fans, capitalize on the moment, and make the partner happy. So it was a fun concept that we came up with. We wrote up a script, sent it over to them. Chris was great. Jeff was great. We walked through it very quickly with them, and kind of explain, hey, this is what we're looking for, and we were able to film it very quickly. And again, shout out to our tremendous content creators who took that footage and was able to edit it really quickly. The not seen there was the number of test shots that we did beforehand before either Jeff or Chris got out there. So there was probably a half hour of additional shooting that happened before they showed up, and then we filmed with them for a while as well. So yeah, no, it was just something that checked all the boxes, and something that was great for Mets fans because they got to see Jeff McNeil show his personality a little bit more, and obviously an ode to the original Happy Gilmore as well.
I can imagine, right? As you said, right? You're like shooting a bit, earlier, and then what you see, right, is part of it. Like, how do you keep like that? Everyone talks about authenticity still. I know that it's kind of a buzzword these days, but how do you keep it like that, right? You said it before with athletes, but also with actors now. How do you keep it in a way that it's still like a good balance between it's good content, the quality is there, but at the same time, right, fans can see that it's actually either an authentic moment or something that can try to again somehow, right, give an image, right, of again having fun, because at the end of the day that's sports, right? It's being together, having a good time, right? So what is the balance for you in that case?
Yeah, that one was probably, again, like that was a little more scripted, but we did go, it was given to both Chris and Jeff well beforehand. So, we had the chance to talk with Jeff and kind of walk him through like, hey, this is what you're doing. And again, if he had some questions early on or like, okay, what's my role here? What's my character here? Yeah, for the most part, we try not to coach them. We want that authentic moment. We want their reaction. We did an activation earlier in the year with Nintendo Switch 2, and that was one of those where the players were getting a chance to use the new Mario Kart World game that it just came out. So again, something like that, we just kind of let them play because we wanted their genuine reaction, and they're all competitive, and they're all they all want to win. And again, some of these guys are just picking up the controller for the first time, and it was just for our fans as well as the players, it was just fun to see them in their genuine moment. We didn't coach them. We didn't give them kind of too much direction because we wanted that authentic reaction of them. And we were fortunate. We had a couple of very close races, so it was very heated. With the controllers. So
And it's great to see finally different medium, right, getting together, and also different interests, right? Because I think that when influencer marketing started, if you were a beauty company, you were only working with beauty people, right? And then fashion with only fashion people are fun, right? We all understood that you can be a person, but with several interests and hobbies, right? And so I think that this intersection, right? So as we said, sports with, movies, and now video games, right? With athletes, right? I think it's an interesting one, right? Again, we're not just like one person with one profile. We have like a multitude, right, of those. So I'm happy to see like that is happening. And on this, I also want to ask you, what do you think there is going to be, the future, right, of sport marketing, like, as first thing, and also the intersection with the creator economy, because they have been evolving a lot. So I'm very curious. You've been, again, as you said, like from even before all the short form videos and verticals, right? And now we are doing that. What is the future? What is missing right now?
Yeah, no, I'd probably be a very rich person if I knew, but yeah, I'm seeing obviously, vertical video is, right now probably the most important. We're seeing a lot more AI, from content creators, again, which is scary, which is also exciting. There's definitely some opportunities there. But yeah, I think, we're seeing a lot more in that space as well. But yeah, I think people want more access. I think people want authentic. I think they want to see that. But, I know that there's a lot of AI produced content out there that entertains people. And, again, I don't know how much it'll seep into the sports space or the athlete space, but, I think from our world, I envision vertical video to continue to grow. I think they'll probably expand, certain aspects of being able to go live and share content instantly. So I can see that definitely expanding, and I think also the way that we capture content. We did some stuff we've tested out the Meta Ray-Ban glasses, and again, I think that gives fans a really unique perspective, directly from the point of view of athletes. So I can definitely see more wearable content, being bigger.
That's definitely an interesting one, right? I mean, of course, not many people see use those devices, right? I think that Meta, right, tried to get into that, and then it was like a lot of hype, right? But then, it went down. So that would be definitely an interesting one, I think, like especially with all the point of view, right? The type of videos. So that may be like I feel like an athlete, right, for 1 hour, and you actually go play with them. That would be an interesting one. And I'm also curious, like, because we're still talking about, like, of course, AI and wearable devices, and be able to be basically like see what they see. But what about also like a bit more on the Kritos IRL type of events? I'm asking because we just went out with like an infographic, a report, and we surveyed people, and we noticed that a lot of people actually love to meet their creators, right, in real life, meaning that they are either doing a meet and greet, as simple as that, as to they actually come out with the idea, they invite people, you can meet them, or maybe they do in collaboration with a brand. In your case, right, when it comes to athletes specifically, I know of course that there already like this type of activation, but if you were able to see more activations like in real life, right, between fans and athletes and sports together, what type of events would you like to see?
I think we have as consumers, I think we trust each other more than we trust the brand, which again, hurts me coming from the Mets. I can tell you it's a lot of fun to come to a Mets game, but you're going to trust a creator more than you're going to trust the guy who works here. So yeah, and I'm aware of that. But I think it's definitely a space that we're getting more involved in. They can truly tell an authentic story of what it is like to come here. I think, from the creator side, I think you'll see more of those in real life experiences. And we've worked with a few over the last year, and, they've mentioned more and more that they are starting to, they're producing content regularly, but they are, taking the time to do meet and greets or to go out to different places and connect directly with fans. And it's very impressive how, you can just go from, this is a thing I like and thing I started talking about to my phone. And then now all of a sudden, you have the connection with a larger community. It really, social media has done a tremendous job of, connecting like-minded people or people who have similar interests. So yeah, I mean, I'm not sure where it will go for, for the athlete space, but, definitely would love to, see more opportunities for, content creators to work with the Mets and, be able to connect with their fans at a game. And the same thing for our athletes, whether it's through the minor league systems or our major league players, being able to connect in real life, I think is very important.
Mhm.
Not just having that digital persona.
Exactly, especially in sports, right? That is about, being there, being present, right? And it's like, physical sports, right? So I think that that's what we're noticing, right? And that's actually, if you think about it, like even other sports, right? Like boxing events, in football, like even creators are getting together and creating teams, right? To make it even more like engaging for people, when it comes to sports, even for people that don't watch sports usually, right? I think that is a nice way to get them interest, right? Because maybe you might not be interested in that professional sports, but maybe if you see someone that playing, right, more for fun than other, would be a good, good way to get them in. So yeah, that would be an interesting one. Will, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm very curious to see the next, partnership and activations, because again, you're like, of course, sports has been always there in society, but now it's getting, like a different shape and formats and everything. So very curious to see what is next.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. This was the Influence Factor by the Influencer Marketing Factory, and I'll see you in the next episode.